Hello and welcome back to the Naren Agarwal Show. Today I have with me a guest who's very special. He's an entrepreneur, but a very artistic entrepreneur. He's somebody who brought Latin dance and salsa to India as the very first person over 25 years ago. This coming April, they will be celebrating 25th year of salsa and Latin dance in India. He's also a Guinness World Record holder. He's worked with superstars like Jackie Chan and worked in dance reality shows like Dance India Dance. I'm so excited to be introducing Lourd, who has traveled over 30 countries, trained over 1.8 lakh, that is 180,000 students through many events. Lourd, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you, Naren. Thank you for having me.
Lourd, I want to hear the story about you opening your own dance studio, getting into the business of dance, but more important, the art, and bringing salsa and Latin American dance to India as one of the first people to do that over 25 years ago. Tell me about that story. How did that journey start? What happened?
Frankly, there's no story. It's a very, very simple thing that happened. I was very passionate about dancing and I wanted to learn Latin dance. So I went to cities like Toronto and Vancouver, New York to learn the form. Came back, friends wanted to learn it, so they organized classes. They organized the space. They would organize the system, and I would just land up there like a star and take classes. And that just keep leading from one point to the other. And essentially, I did a lot of musicals in Bangalore then with a few theater groups. And that's what got me noticed. And in the process, I met a lot of dancers who wanted to take up dancing more seriously. And stuff that would happen 1 hour a week started becoming 2 hours a day. And then it became nearly 4 to 6 hours every day. And then by the time we started off in 98 officially, by 2000, we were nearly 16 studios across Bangalore. And
Wow.
2007, we opened Chennai, then we opened Bombay, then we opened Delhi. And that's it. So there's no stopping by. 2006, I stopped my bottling business completely and started focusing on the dance business.
So
And
you
that's
were
it.
in a different business before this, and you were doing this simultaneously, and then you ended up closing that business, and your passion became your primary
Right.
business.
So that's the story. Yes. The story began when I shut the other company down.
Here's a question though.
Yeah.
You like over 24, 25 years ago,
24, yeah.
would pay plane tickets and take the journey away and time away from your business to go learn
Yeah.
Latin American dance in New York and Toronto.
Yeah.
Like what sparked you to do that? That's a crazy story though, there, right, in itself, right?
So basically, I was always dancing. My mom tells me that I went on stage when I was 3 years old. Dad used to be in the Air Force, and I think Air Force, the entire quarters and colonies that we live in, has a lot of people who are always looking at, and there are people from every state in a colony. So every Friday was something you would look forward to. Every festival you would look forward to, and then as a small child, when there's nothing happening on stage, I probably was curious to just see what was happening backstage and why wasn't anyone dancing. So supposedly I climbed up the stairs, went on stage, and since nothing was happening, I started dancing for the crowd. So that's what it is. I don't remember anything about it.
Wow, so you've been a dancing star since like a young
So I
young
started dancing, and then I think I just was a natural dancer. I didn't have to try too hard. And then during school, middle school, high school, I was very, very enamored by all our martial artists like Jackie Chan and Van Damme and Bruce Lee. So I would just do my own kicks and splits. When I used to go to my dad's office, the office chairs had wheels, so I would just get onto the wheelchairs and try and do splits.
Wow, that's
And
crazy.
that child, you have no fear, so you just do random stuff. You keep jumping off here and there. And that's how that whole spark to be a dancer. Again, not like a professional dancer, just a dancer. And then obviously you have your Mithun Chakravarti and Govinda that you're exposed to.
Correct.
And then comes Prabhudeva, and then Prabhudeva is something I'm not a big fan of, but yeah, but others obviously. And then when you stay in Kashmir, you get a lot of feed from Pakistan on television. and Pakistan generally had mostly American television programming. So a lot of music videos would be aired, and then I would get a lot of exposure to Jackson's videos and a lot of influence
Wow.
stars. So that's how I probably got exposed to breaking and break dancing and stuff. So
That's
that the
cool.
moonwalk and everything else. And then when we came back to Bangalore, I was part of the church youth group. And the youth group those days had a lot of Anglo-Indian families. And the Anglo-Indians knew how to jive really well.
Hmm.
So I learned the jive from them, but mostly just by watching them and trying to dance with them and figuring out. They are great dancers, but unfortunately, they were never able to teach. So, and the form that they do is very different from what happens across the world.
Hmm.
Very, very casual, very freestyle, very drunken, distilled, washed down version of the actual jive. And
Yeah.
it evolved to being something very, very different. And it's something that it's very free form. There's no technique per se. Like
Hmm.
any other form has a certain way of stepping.
Correct.
Guys break on the left leg, women have to break on the right leg. But here anything goes. So I actually sat down and codified the whole dance. I made it more systemized in terms of how to teach the form. I broke it down completely. And that's how this
Wow.
whole dance form became very popular in Bangalore. And then the natural progression for a couple dance, when you watch salsa and stuff, is you get enamored by it. Then you just, as a lay person, you assume, oh, if you just have to partner dance, and salsa seems very simple. So
Correct.
you watch movies like Dance with Me or Dirty Dancing and stuff, and just pick up some moves. But then when I went to Toronto, is when I realized that what you learn by yourself is just nothing but bullshit. The salsa is like a classical dance form because there's so many layers to it. There's so many folk dances to it. Like it means hot sauce, and it truly means hot sauce because of the number of ingredients. There are nearly 3,000 folkloric forms of Cuba alone that go into forming one dance form. So if you really get deep into it, then you had to learn 3,000 of those forms. And then you have a lot of African influence into the evolution of dance. Then you have European Creole influence, Spanish influence. And Spain basically has a very strong flamenco culture.
Hmm. Correct.
Flamenco music and dance has its roots to India because of
Ah.
Kathak. So the
Okay.
Punjabi gypsies who migrated from the Sindh province
Yes.
to the
Even
Persian Gulf.
now, when I was in Spain, like I saw a lot of the gypsies, the so-called gypsies, who have migrated actually from the Pakistan, Punjab, India region all the way there, and they started the flamenco music, and they are the artists and the show people, right? There since like centuries, right?
So precisely. So that's how the Indian connection happens with Latin dancing.
Oh, wow, that's incredible to hear. So salsa is basically like a fusion, right, of the Cuban influence, the Creole influence, the African influence, and the flamenco influence.
Yeah, yeah. The flamenco guitar plays a big part in the entire evolution of salsa music itself. Yeah.
Salsa is truly like a very international dance in that way. It's not uh, just from Latin America. Yes, it has its major roots, but in that way, it could see like kind of a melting pot, a cultural fusion in itself.
Yeah, of course. That's why the whole world is dancing salsa. Yeah.
No wonder that salsa is so popular around the world. So
Yeah.
interesting. Great to hear that from you. And that brought you to learning, going abroad, learning salsa and bringing it back. Like right now, it feels that even though the salsa comes from Latin America, the United States, some cities have kind of become this capital of salsa, right? New York, LA, or do you would you say some other part of the world is still kind of the capital of salsa?
So New York is the capital of salsa. That's where salsa was born. Salsa dancing was born because the Hispanics living in New York were the ones who actually evolved the form, the style, and stuff like that. So
Oh,
the Cubans have their own form, the Colombians have their own form, but it's called because of the folkness of it. It has a different version to it. But New York is where it is the birthplace of mambo, and mambo is now the salsa.
wow.
Yeah.
And so, how was it for you to first learn an art, come back to it, and then introduce a whole country, like one of the largest democracies, to salsa?
So like I
What
said, I
did
mean, it was
that take?
never a plan. It was just, I mean, I wanted to do it. So basically, I realized that and there's nothing happening here. So if you don't create something, then nothing, obviously, if you whatever you learn, you forget, it dies. And then it was never meant to be like, oh, I want to come and launch salsa in India. There's no business plan per se. The idea was I wanted to stay in touch with it. And then luckily I had friends who were keen on learning, but they never lasted anything. They just started off and then they just jumped the boat.
Just like friends are, they in the beginning, but it's the others who you then impact. The
Yeah,
people who you don't know, they carry the legacy forward. Friends
right,
with your, yeah, exactly. With these things, friends always remain the friends. They don't get into the professional and the other aspects.
right. So yeah, so luckily for me, I met a lot of dancers who were keen on doing this. And because I come with a business background, I didn't rely on this for my livelihood. So it didn't have a very big impact. But arts across the world, generally, unless you make it really big as an artist, artists generally it's a struggle most of the times. Like unless
True.
you are in the top 10%, and in the top 10%, if their lifestyle is beyond their means, then they also have a certain struggle that they have to go through. But if you're in the 90%, then every day is a hand to mouth existence.
Yeah, for an artist, right? And
Yeah,
what's beautiful about what you did was that you created a business with the art, so it became kind of self-sustaining in itself, right? And only when you have money and resources behind an art, only then can you feel it. We are not living in the era of like kings and queens where there will be a patron and they'll sponsor you and your art will then get famous. You have to kind of
yeah.
figure out a way to
Basically, that's what
make
it is.
famous.
Money has to be put in behind anything to make it exist. Otherwise, it's a problem. It might be self money, or it may be money from the outside. So yeah, somehow there has to be patronage coming in from certain resources to fund any kind of art, any kind of legacy created by art. So yeah.
And so, as you look right now in coming April, 25 years of salsa in India, and you launching your studio LVDS, what kind of big accomplishments come to your mind that you feel very like grateful for and proud of?
Frankly, you know what? It was there was a time I was be very proud of everything I was doing, but now I think it's come to a point where I need to do more as well. So
Wow.
it's about giving back as well because there have been a lot of other serious things that I've gone through in the past 7, 8 years. So salsa is not something that is the be all end all. There are other things that I need to focus on. So yeah, but salsa will always remain my mainstay because that's what has given me the entire visibility, fame, and fortune. But yeah, the point is there are other things that I need to focus on as well. So essentially, giving back societal reforms is very, very crucial. And it may not just be one thing. It may not just be art. It may be other things as well that needs to be addressed. But then, yeah,
Wow.
I would use salsa or dancing to address those issues.
Wow. I know you're a very avid supporter of some non-governmental causes and NGO, and you're a
Right.
trustee in one of the foundation. Can we hear more about it and what led you to get into that?
So basically, I run two foundations. One is basically an art foundation. The other is essentially a health foundation that works around spreading awareness and organ donation. But that's something that we're going to be moving out of because I don't need to have a trust to support causes like these. I just have one trust, which I would like to just run one trust that is the Dance and the Arts Foundation. And the entire support we're getting the other board of trustees to take on the other foundation because I'm very passionate about organ donation and also the environment. And my life partner is very, very big on to supporting strays. So all the indies that are all over the city. So my life partner and her mother are all very, very into the whole rescue and feeding of strays across certain areas and stuff.
Wow.
So I would like them to take over that trust, and I would be independently supporting them whenever I can. But the arts and the dance foundation is more our mainstay because I'm not sure if you know, but breakdancing has become a part of the Olympics.
Oh,
So,
I was not aware of that.
so 2024 in the Germany Olympics, we will be seeing it as a competing sport. So right now we are setting up an excellence center in Bangalore where our studio was. So that's going to be our studio. Generally was a 800 square feet space, but now it was in a fitness complex which is maybe about 7,000 square feet. But now we're taking over the entire space and making it into an excellence center, a very high end Olympic excellence center with state of the art tech, some of the best coaches from across the world, the best physiotherapists, the best sports specialists, sports science specialists, high performance coaches from Israel. So yeah, so the idea is to produce athletes. We may not have a chance this coming Germany, in Olympics in Germany, but the Atlanta one, we surely want to give it a very, very strong shot.
Wow, break dancing, and there's a 7,000 square feet excellence center coming up in Bangalore, and this will be kind of the mecca for break dancing in India.
Right.
And you're spearheading that project in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
phenomenal. What a phenomenal news. Thank you for sharing and teaching me something new about that. This is
So yeah,
crazy.
I mean, I don't come from the breakdancing culture at all. But obviously, Olympics is a very, very big thing for us as a country. And I think it's time to support. And this actually would be very beneficial for dancers because Olympics is the stepping stone to whatever achievements you need as a dance sport athlete. So yeah, that's where we're getting at.
Wow. Lourd, you're probably bored of this question, but I have to ask you this. Tell me
Yeah.
about the Guinness World Record. Probably everybody
Guinness
asks
World
you
Record
about this.
again. I mean, like I said, none of our achievements are something that I can talk about or boast about. Very, very casual in terms of the approach and how it happened.
Yeah, that's
I,
fine
the,
too, but I want to hear about it. Like, how did you ideate it? Did you think that you would make the Guinness World Record? Why did you go about like attempting for it, or did this just happen out of nowhere?
you'll be shocked if I said how it happened because I'll tell you the story. I was
Please.
scouting Sony, no, colors, right? Just colors. Colors wanted me to, because I worked with DID and a few other television reality shows. So Colors wanted me to scout around and try and help them break dance-based records for India because Guinness World Record was coming to India and then they were airing it and they wanted many Indians to break records. And obviously, we are a dance country, so there were a set of dance records that we wanted to break. So the production team wanted us to get some dancers, and I was scouting around. And for some reason, these dancers were just so not into wanting to break a record because I think many of them are also insecure, I guess. If they don't break a record on television, then their name and everything else will be at stake.
Correct.
And many of my dancers from my team were wanting to do it, but they were looking at all the crazy records that they wanted to break. Like they wanted to break some really challenging records. They didn't like again, I think it was just ego at play. There's one
Yeah.
big issue with dancers. I mean, they never look at it from a practical perspective. So for me, my best experience has been as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as an artist. I mean, it's the best of both worlds. I can be creative if I want to, and I can be as practical and as pragmatic as possible if I want to.
Correct.
So I told the guys to do this, do this, do this, but they were like, no, no, we want to do this and do that. And I said, okay, fine. If you want to do it, you go do it. I mean, and then none of them broke records. And the production company wanted one more guy to break another record. And then I was like, and then we had just finished the Goa Salsa Festival.
Okay.
And I had 1 week. Generally, what happens is after the Goa Salsa Festival, I take off to the US to spend time with my sister and my nieces. Because generally it's April and it's a good time to visit
This is the
the US.
US. Right.
So, but that year I didn't want to travel because I had already gone. Because Feb 20th is my niece's birthday and I had already visited and come back. So there was I had no chance. About that 1 week, I wanted to just chill and do nothing.
Yeah.
And then this person from the production company kept on calling me and calling me and calling me. Her name is Jyotsna. And I was like, shit, I don't have anybody to send. And in that conversation, she just hinted that why don't you come and try breaking the record?
Huh.
I was like, oh no, I'm just too old for breaking records and I don't want that unwanted thing. I mean, even though I'm a dancer, I'm very good at being behind the scenes. I
Yeah.
would like to create stuff rather than I'm not a person who likes to perform on stage and stuff.
Correct.
I like to teach. I like to get people on stage, but that
Yeah.
I didn't on stage. I mean, yeah, when I was younger, yeah, that whole limelight was great. But I
Correct.
think after doing about 200, 300 shows, I mean, it's the
Around the
same.
world. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, around the world as well. I mean, like I said, I mean, you do about 10 shows. I mean, there are people who live off it. That entire adrenaline rush is their drug. But for me, I didn't have that whole thing. And
Yeah.
many of the artists I've seen who are on stage generally are a little tipsy before they get on stage. They like to have a drink or two because they like that whole high. But for me, I'm not a drinker, so it doesn't work very well for me.
Yeah.
So I don't drink, and then getting on stage without having a drink, people just wonder what happens. So these are the small issues I had. And yeah, so basically, dancing, like I said, I'm better off with people getting on stage than me getting on stage. But then she just kind of hinted at, okay, let's go give it a shot because I have nothing to do anyway. So I went in, I got my three dancers to come with me. We tried, and the whole idea of the swing dance flips, the record was 32 flips per minute. And I was like, okay, if it's 32 flips a minute, we need to do about at least 11 flips every 20 seconds. And if you
Right.
break it down that way, it doesn't seem so Herculean. Rather, 20 seconds, 11 flips, not a problem. So we did it step by step. So I said, forget the 1 minute, let's just do first 20 minutes. So then we were not anywhere close to 11, we were close to about 7, 8. And then it happened slowly. Then, I mean, I never hit 32 during the trials. And then when
Oh,
I reached Bombay, I don't know, for some reason, I don't know, I sat probably very badly in the aircraft and I got a very bad back spasm. And then immediately I was taken to the hospital, to the, what is that, Kukla Ben Hospital. And there's somebody called Heath Matthew, who's a super sports science specialist. He got
okay.
my back straight within a few minutes and he was like a magician.
Whoa.
Then I went back, we tried, did some nonsense here and there. And then again, the spasm came back, again, went back, and he got it fixed. So three, four visits, and he was like really good. And then we tried doing it and we hit 30. But I guess on the day of the shoot, I don't know what happened. I think adrenaline just kicked in, and by the time we finished with 39 flips in a minute. So yeah.
This is crazy. And you make it sound so casual. Okay, by this point of the conversation, I know you're somebody who's very nonchalant. You're somebody who does not like to say a lot of things, boast a lot of things, but this is crazy, okay? You broke a Guinness World Record just attempting it, going casual about it. In the attempts, you were doing 30 flips a minute, 32 flips a minute, and at the recording, when there's most pressure, you ended up doing 39 flips in a minute. That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. And basically, I mean, I think the whole approach should be to have fun rather than like if you're under stress, I think nothing happens. And for me, under stress, I never work. So I
Yeah.
just need to own it. I need to be as casual. I need to just be nonchalant about it. It should not
Correct.
affect me anyway. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from you because of this, kind of very nonchalant and low key kind of vibe that you're giving me. And also you saying that, it's not a big deal. It just happened even with the salsa thing. Is there a deep spiritual practice or a faith that you're into or that you subscribe to?
Actually, I'm not a religious person at all.
Okay.
I'm an atheist to a very large extent. I mean,
Okay.
but my spirituality is all about gratitude. Is what I believe in. And yeah, I'm just a happy person and nothing else. I mean, I'm pretty laid back in the sense that I like to work. I'm a hard worker. I do a lot. I mean, my dance school and dance business is all that I have, and creating new opportunities is what I like to do. And
Yeah.
and also competition is right because out of the 30 schools in Bangalore, 29 are students. Many of the students are across the country as well, opening their own
Yeah.
schools. Competition is rife, so we have to be on top of our game. And obviously, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. We need to start creating new ground. I mean, we always set new standards. We always be number one, not just on one thing, but multiple things, right? From setting up the school, we're the first to set up a proper professionally run dance studio with sprung up wooden flooring because even the big dancers in Bombay would use school halls or school classrooms with cement flooring or tile flooring to run classes. But I was very against the whole idea. I mean, the idea was to keep it safe, create a safe environment for budding dancers. It may be Latin dancing, it may not be ballet or jazz, where you don't have to do big leaps and bounds and stuff. But the idea is to create that nice atmosphere. You got to feel nice when you enter the studio. When you're dancing on wooden flooring and dancing on cement or on tile flooring, that feeling itself is very different. So
So true.
that is the whole idea. So we created that. We had a proper flooring. We imported part of the flooring from the US because we didn't have it in India then. I had great sound system again imported from the US. So yeah, so that's what happened. And yeah, right from the Salsa Congress, we created an event called the India International Salsa Congress. We created properties like the Goa Salsa Festival, the Chennai Salsa Festival.
Tell me more about the Goa Salsa Festival.
So basically, it's a dance vacation where we have 3 days of partying. We have workshops, we have beach parties, pool parties, but it's all about Latin music, salsa, bachata, and people dancing. So we
Oh,
had 500 guests from across the country, across the world. The India International Salsa Congress is a bigger event in Bangalore with about 2,000 attendees from across the world as well. So yeah, so that's another big
wow.
event.
Latin music is getting famous around the world. Like, just like English music, I think it's really catching on. If you go to the United States, I mean, you travel, and I went to college there. A lot of now in popular clubs, in common college parties, they're playing Latin music, reggaeton, bachata, all these music is getting very famous. And even in India, and with that song Despacito, I think it just broke that glass ceiling for uh, like, Latin music across the world.
So, and Despacito and all stuff is more commercial Latin music, which we do
Exactly.
subscribe to. But when you look at the actual thing in terms of the purest kind of
Salsa
music,
music, yeah.
salsa and bachata, now there's kizomba, and then from the old age we have our jive and our swing, and then we have electro swing as well. So yeah, so I thought, I mean, it's and as a city, Bangalore as a city is something that has been always at the forefront of accepting new cultures, new genres, new music, new language. So from that
Right.
perspective, I mean, Calcutta as well. Like this, Calcutta also has a very strong jazz influence, and so does Bangalore. So
Right.
yes, I think from a jazz perspective, again, Latin music is a natural progression because again, the layering of music is as close to as a jazz setup as music is, because multiple instruments, multiple layers of music come together. So yeah.
I just want to highlight this interesting point. Since I'm talking to, I would say, an artistic entrepreneur, somebody who's into the arts and somebody who's an entrepreneur, I think there's a great balance that you have kind of fine-tuned and brought into, which is this whole art aspect where you got to be a little beyond logic, right? You got to be think creative, etc. At the same time, to be an entrepreneur, you got to be this pragmatic, practical, logical person. How will this thing work? How will the system run? How will we run the studio? How will the finances come in and fund it? And to be an artistic entrepreneur, you need to really have that fine fusion of both. Otherwise, the art will either go missing or the entrepreneurship will go missing, and you'll just be an artist. This balance is very unique. Is there a certain practice or something that you do that helps you create this balance?
So I mean, right now I don't actually do anything, but just a few months ago I would do a lot of meditation and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I have a morning practice where there's a lot of breathing techniques, and yeah. So I mean, I don't want to discuss it right now because it's very personal. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I think everybody does it, I guess. I also do a lot of language classes on Duolingo. I learn Spanish.
Hola,
So,
¿cómo estás?
¿cómo estás? Muy bien. ¿Tú?
Bien.
So I do a lot of that, and then I also read. Reading is a big part of what I do,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I think 2 hours in the morning goes into a lot of that. So I read a lot of business books. I read a lot of self-help books. I know people find it very, very uh, cliched in terms of people reading self-help books, but I think
No,
they do. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If somebody's already done something and they've learned from their mistakes, why should we do that? So
I
it helps.
100% agree. Life is too short to learn from your own mistakes. There's so much to learn from others. And
Right.
That's one of the reasons I do this podcast, is to learn from others who have excelled in their field and how they've created that. I so agree. What's like one of your top self-help or other business books, would you say?
Oh, there are many of them. Yeah. There are many of them. If you see, if you, I can just show you my entire collection of books. It's
Wow.
all in a huge pile right now. So,
That's wonderful. What's a cool book that go like off top of your head for business and
so
um,
I mean, it's not top of my head. It's not a business book at all. I think *Sapiens* is
oh,
one of the
Sapiens.
popular
Nice.
books. I just love that book. And Narahari is like one of those cool historians who's
Yeah.
something that we all live up to in terms of. I mean, I think entrepreneurship is also art. It's not about juxtaposing an entrepreneur and art, because at the end of the day, you are creating something. At the end of the day, even accounting, balancing of books and stuff is art. You need to figure out. I mean, playing with numbers is art. And there's no, the way the numbers were written down is art. So everything is
Ah,
art around. I mean, why would a certain number be written a certain way? So I think it's not about balancing it. It's just about creating, one stems from the other and vice versa.
that's phenomenal. One last question I have for you, Lourd, is if somebody wants to learn salsa, somebody
Mhm.
wants to get into salsa learning, especially if they're an entrepreneur, why would you recommend salsa to them?
Oh, it's like the perfect discipline in terms of not just, okay, let me put it this way. We are neurologically programmed to dance, first important thing. People think that, oh, I can't dance, I have two left feet. But the first thing that a child can do when it's born is to react to rhythm. The first thing he or she does is get a digits to react to certain. It can be anything. It can be a spoon dropping on the floor. Spoon dropping on the floor, the sound or the noise that the spoon makes has certain rhythm to it. Everything around us is governed by rhythm. The way the heart beats, the way the blood flows, the way we walk. We walk left, right, left, right, left, right. We don't walk left, 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 right, left, 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 right. So the way our fingers move, the way everything moves, the way our hands move as well has certain rhythm to it. So yeah, so
Wow.
that's a, it's a very natural thing to do, and it's the only discipline that helps all faculties. You can do a martial art program which will equally benefit you, but then there's no music which will affect your auditory. So here, dance helps from a kinesthetic perspective, from a visual perspective, from an auditory perspective. Touch and feel makes it so important. Dancing with another person makes it so important. Gender neutrality, gender respect, all that comes into play. Lead and follow. When you lead a person, you need to exert that kind of pressure. Should not be too hard. It cannot be too soft. It has to be at the right time. You must give her the right space. You must have the right space for yourself to execute a move. And you got to time the moves right to the music as well. You got to make her step to the same music timing as you are. So a lot of things at play. So I mean, once you do something like a salsa, and like I say, salsa is not for the weak-hearted. If you want a challenge, then salsa is something that you must do.
Wow, wow, wow. What a nice reason to do salsa. And just so you know, just so everybody else knows, I've also done a little bit of salsa when I was in the United States. There was a salsa club in my college, learned a little bit of salsa and truly, truly enjoyed it. Because that rhythmic movement, and also I don't know, there's something about Latin American, that bachata salsa song, that vibe. It's phenomenal and it's really enjoyable to move into that rhythm.
And I want to add to it, the whole hassle. I mean, when you hear Despacito and a few other tracks, the visual medium that these tracks, the commercial tracks, showcase is not something just true of salsa or any Latin culture per se. All the videos are all very commercial videos. You just see women in bikinis dancing around the beach or on at a poolside, which is not the case. People think, oh, it's sexy, it's sensual, it may probably be borderline slutty and stuff like that. But most of the dances are very, very culturally rich. They have a tradition, they have a folklore. Most of them are danced with parents, mother dancing with the son, daughter dancing with the
Yep,
father.
yep.
So there is a lot of respect around the dance form as well. So these are things that people have to be aware of. It's not just about women, hot women dancing in bikinis.
Correct.
Yeah.
So true.
No,
So
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Just that Despacito and stuff, has done a good deal in terms of exposing Latin culture music, but that's not where it is. And you've got to open your minds and also dwell into the other things beyond that.
Correct. So true. Lourd, what a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, insight, knowledge. It's amazing to have spoken to a truly artistic entrepreneur, somebody who's broken a world record for India, and somebody who brought salsa to India over 24 years ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, and all the best to you.
Thanks, Lourd. Hello and welcome again. I hope you really enjoyed this podcast. If you did, share it with one person that you can help. Jisko isse madat mile. And if you like this podcast, you want such more insightful information and knowledge, check out the other podcasts right here. I will see you very soon in another episode.